Today I'm going to make a 2-meter J-pole antenna. You can find these plans online. These antennas are pretty simple to make and they're fairly effective. The main trick is getting them tuned, getting the SWR tuned in. So what do you need for this? You need the instructions, of course. There's a million different videos and instructions on how to do this. I figured I'd make it 1,000,001. You can kind of look through these measurements for 2 meters. They're all pretty much the same. Some of them talk about using a balun, some of them talk about using a coil of wire. We're going to use a coil of wire. So we have our RG58 coax here, the adapter for the PL259 connector, the PL259 connector solder, 1/2-inch elbow, 1/2-inch T, torch, tubing cutter, tape measure, screw clamps, and wire ties, and a radio to test and set up the SWR. So the first thing we'll do is we'll cut the pipe. One of the critical things to look at is from where these measurement points actually are. So for this one, they show it from the top of the T to the top of the cap. I'm not going to cap this because this is just an experimental test version. I'm going to use for portable field work. It's not really going to be exposed to water. If you were going to make this a permanent installation, you want to stick the caps on it, and also silicone the coax really good because water will get in and screw the coax up. You have to make that moisture tight. You want to stick that like that and then measure 57 3/4 and cut it. Now for this measurement here, they want basically 1 3/4. This one and this one don't appear to be that critical. I've made these antennas before. This one, the tuning stub, the length of that, and where the feed line is attached are hypercritical as far as tuning. So 1 3/4. So we get that about to 1 3/4, and then we'll measure what we need here. We need about a pipe that's about 1 3/8 inches. So once you cut that, of course, you can move it in and out before you solder it. Now what I'll do is I'll solder it because I have it pulled out quite a bit. Okay, I soldered these two. Do not solder these two yet. Now your tuning stub is 19 1/4. Now this one's pretty critical. So we want to mark this at 19 1/4. And cut it. And you really want this to be true here. So what I might end up having to do is heat this up and try and adjust this because it doesn't want to sit with true spacing. Alright, I heated this up and then I adjusted it. I got it about where I want it. So now I'll solder all of them again. And for now, I'm just going to put the excess piece as the mounting post. So nothing above this point right here. All this going this way doesn't matter. It's only from here up. This right here is one 10-foot stick of copper. This is the cheap copper, I think $9.50. There's much better grades of copper. Next, slide 2 screw clamps. This over here. And now we're going to put the connector and prepare the coax. So the way this works, if you've never put one of these on before, so you have a spacer here, because this is good for either RG58 or RG8 coax. You don't use the adapter with the smaller size coax. So slip this over here. Okay, then what you want to do is strip this, prepare this. Strip about that much off, about 3/4 of an inch. And what you want to do is wrap this around, kind of pull it back and wrap it around, kind of circular motion so it doesn't get caught in the threads, and then strip off about a 1/2 inch there. And what you're going to do is feed it into here. You'll end up with something like this. And one thing I forgot to mention is you can solder the shield down through these holes. I usually don't, because I've never had a problem with it, but you can. And then what you want to do is solder this and chop that off. I'm going to just use a torch to solder it because I'm pretty good at soldering, but you might want to use an iron. Okay, now for the next side, I changed my mind. I am going to waterproof this. So slide a piece of heat shrink over the end of it. You're not going to do anything with this right now. And then strip enough of this off to span between these two. You want to end up with this, not this. Okay, as a baseline they want 1 7/8 here, and then they want 5-inch coil, 4 turns, 5 inches in diameter. So I'll just start with it at 1 7/8. The shield goes to the short, the center lead goes to the long piece of copper. Okay, here's our 4 turns, and we're gonna test it now. Okay, I got the radio in SWR mode, and I'm gonna start at 146 megahertz. And this radio displays SWR along the bottom line, and you can see we got 1 to 2 bars. That's pretty good. We'll go up a megahertz there to 147, and it's about the same. Let's come down to 45. Gets a little worse, so I'm gonna try moving the clamps down a little bit. I got it down to 1 bar on here, which is about 1.4 to 1, which is pretty good, but I want to try and get it lower. Alright, I'm going to give you the final measurements here. The best I can get on this is 1.4 to 1, which is acceptable. It's not as low as I'd like to see it. Pump that full of silicone and shrink it down to create sort of a watertight seal. I ended up, because I couldn't get it to tune where I wanted, cutting about 1 inch off and then putting this coupler on there that I could slide up and down to tune it. I also moved these up and down. I wasn't getting any better than 1.4 to 1. It seems to work just about as good as the mobile antenna on my truck, which works excellent. So from the top of there to there, I got about 18 3/4, and this thing called for 19 1/4. And then, of course, this is relative because I'm not directly soldering onto the pipe. I'm using screw clamps, but I'm at about, from the center of the screw clamp, I'm about 1 3/4, and they wanted 1 7/8. So yeah, works real good. This is the same size. This I shortened down a little bit. My coil is right around 5 inches, 4.5, 5 inches.
Summits on the air activation. Okay, K6 QSY to 1720 meters CW. Thank you very much again, gentlemen.